Hey everybody, Ken Plume here with another edition of Force 5. It's the show where I have a wonderful guest on. We talk about their 5 favorite Star Wars collectibles in their personal collection, some honorable mentions, some other stuff, whatever may come up in our discussion, their collecting journey. It's a fun conversation, and I've had amazing guests and another amazing guest to add to the list today. We have the glowing ghost, Tristan Miller, an amazing artist, just the kind of artist whose work makes you go, I can't do that. I wish I could do that, but I'm glad somebody's doing that. And that person today is Tristan. Glowing Ghost, how are you?
I'm okay. Today has been like a roller coaster day. No one would even believe. At midnight, our transformer blew, and so we've been powerless. And then I finally
Oh,
went out to my
geez.
car, and my car got broken into today. So I'm glad to just talk about Star Wars and forget about
Well,
the
we
bad.
picked a great day for everything to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry about all those things. I hope that everything gets better on all of those fronts.
Yeah, I'm sure it's some universal punishment for me not really being into Transformers.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, totally. That's how the universe works. It has to balance out.
Yeah.
Hasbro sent some goons. Like, why don't you like
Yeah.
RIP? Well, you got the license stuff. What's the deal with that? You don't want to do any GI Joe models? Let's talk a little bit before we dive in deep into your collecting journey. I want to give some context for people who may not be familiar with your work. So how would you describe the work that you do? 3D artist? How do you
Yeah,
personally describe it?
I'd say sculptor or pretty much, the it was I love toys so much and I had this like energy that everyone does with like their, when you take toy photography or, you're setting up your display and the energy where you're like, I have these things and I want to do something, I want to do something else with it, whether that's play with them or, we all have that like extra energy. And there's like on my Instagram, my very first post is like I decided to make a little guy out of clay in my dorm oven, and literally ever since then it was always just, oh man, how can I make this thing look like the thing that's in my head, and just like being a poor college student, like, I couldn't buy the toys all the time, but the software, like I was learning through my master's degree and I was like, okay, I can use this to make, the toys that I want. And so I would spend a lot of time, um, kind of like working with a little blob and it not really looking good. And then you just keep going. And every time it looks a little less ugly. And hopefully by your 3000th time, you're like, yeah, that looks like a person. So that's kind of what led me to where I am today. And honestly, I'm just still shocked that anyone like pays attention to it because it was just something that I was always, doing for myself. And I think a lot of people were kind of like, hey, that's neat. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
Well, see, the problem is the work is too good for people to ignore. So you're gonna have that attention on it.
Yeah.
It is a rather astounding. This I have a couple of your pieces
Oh,
uh,
really?
printed out. So I'll hold this one up first. So
Oh, yeah, Dex.
and what everyone knows by now if they've watched, I'm not good at painting, so I can print, but not the painting. And this is filament printing. This isn't resin.
Oh, it looks so
So
good.
so shows that your model can hold up to even a filament printer and look perfect. And I couldn't stop there. So I figured, well, if I have a Dex that can go with my Black Series figures, what about a Dex to go with my Hot Toys?
Oh my gosh. I think you are on record for having the biggest like Dex action figure.
And what's good is, because he had the swappable heads,
Yeah.
this fit on my print bed to print in one go.
Oh, that's crazy.
So sadly, the one that wouldn't fit at the Hot Toys size, because it didn't have a removable head, but I could print it Black Series, was the Boss Nass.
Yeah.
So I tried so many ways to find a good place to slice this thing to print in 2 sections to try and do. But he's got sort of the curve to his robe on the bottom,
Yeah.
so it wasn't a clear slice there. And then I was like, well, what if I went there? And then it's like that's too midsection-y to do it. And
It's so tough.
he exists this way, so that's good.
it's so tough, and it's a lot of little weird problems that you don't even think about until you're making stuff. Like it's one thing to make a blob look like the character, and then afterward there's this whole other set of problems like you mentioned of like, oh, what do I do about, well, the robe needs to print flat, or what if they want to swap the heads, or
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy.
Or just how fine a point you can get on something,
Yep.
talking about like the hair on decks. And I've certainly had issues where stuff like that has failed on other, not these prints, thankfully, or the nose ring,
Yeah.
which printed out fine, surprise, and even on the smaller one, printed out fine on a filament printer. But I can tell you, for anyone trying it, not fun to clean up.
No.
Trying, because then you forget, oh right, there was a nose ring in there. I'm just clipping away, taking these supports off, not thinking about it. So let's just say the alternate head for decks that printed out does not have a nose ring anymore. That was
It's
lost in the cleanup.
I think like a lot of people, when you see like that, it's like you must think that, oh, this guy, knows what he's doing the whole time he's doing it. Like that Dex, I'm astounded by it every time I look at it, because the whole time I was working on it, I was like, this looks horrible. This doesn't look like Dex, and like every step of the way, I'm like, you should quit. Like this is not looking good. And then
Well,
it
I'm
comes out,
glad you didn't listen to yourself,
yeah, and
which
it's like
seems a
that with
very weird thing to say, but
everything.
and the fact that you actually did work in some articulation. I mean, you got as much articulation on this thing as Hasbro did on their original version of Dex. So it is more detailed than their
It
original version.
just so happened to line up because it was around Christmas time. I was working on it. My friend from childhood, he was like cleaning out his home, and he found his childhood decks, and he was like, "I know you loved like playing with this, so I'll give it to you." And he gave it to me, and then I went back home for Christmas, and that's when I got the commission of like, "Can you make decks?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I've got the little guy here to look at, and so I had him in my hand and was referencing. It was really cool.
I mean, the collaboration between you and Landspeeder Luke has produced some amazing things for the collecting community.
Yeah, I don't think anyone ever wants to be compared to like a Renaissance Pope, but like
Go
in terms
on.
of, like, giving me the chapel of the church to paint, like Lance Peter Luke has been that guy of just I wouldn't have been able to try or do any of the stuff that I've tried without his like patronage, really, because it's a lot of like yes, you can do that, and you can do articulation, and you can go as detailed as possible, and the people who are part of his like Patreon are like capable, of printing that, because sometimes it varies from client to client. Some people are like, I don't want it to move, I just need it to be a solid like brick that I can print and stuff,
With
and so
no fiddly bits that are going to break off or
yeah. Yeah, so it's really nice sometimes that, and especially now we've done so much together. We're at a point where Lance Peter Luke is just like, here's a picture of the guy. I trust you. You like, do it. And I've always come back with like, oh, and I added an extra head, and I hope it's okay, but I made his mouth move, or just things like that.
and Luke's like, no, no, it's
Yeah,
not okay. Make it unmove.
it's so interesting too, like all the different people that have different Patreons and things. Everyone's got different rules, and so it is cool. Sometimes, like I get that feedback of like, absolutely not. No, no, you can't take the no swappable heads, and I'm like, okay, like that's that's fine.
No, it is so what was the let's go back as far back as we can. Sort of, can you remember the first sort of toys that really excited you, that you started actively collecting? Like you could consider this is a thing that I want more of to play with or to have in my collection.
Absolutely. I'm like a 2000s kid. So I remember specifically my grandma was like my best friend. And so she would take me to Toys R Us, and it was just us. And then one time we went, and there was this brand new thing on the shelf called Ben 10. And I was like, well, there's 10 aliens. And for the first time in my life, I had that feeling of, well, I need all 10, And of course she was like, you can get three. And so I got
But it's
Ghost Breed.
Ben 10. It's
I
Ben
know.
10.
And from there, it was over. Every Christmas, every birthday, it was, Ben 10, Ben 10. I need all of it. I gotta have all of it. And that was my first like So, and I have all of them still. And every time I go to a flea market, even if I already have a Heat Blast, I'll pick up the one I find, like Dan with Boba Fett. Like I've got the Heat Blast Boba set. Yeah, that's
or Toy Polloi Miles Mayhem, a mile of
yeah,
Miles Mayhem.
yeah. Heat Blast and anything Ben 10. I consider it
Is there
like
anything you're missing?
oh, there's so much. It's insane. There's so much. Back when I was kind of in high school and I fell off the like toys, there was Omniverse was happening and they were at Toys R Us and I missed that whole line. So I have nothing from Omniverse and it's really hard to find right now.
Because that was in a weird time for toys.
It was because I remember there was still some Omniverse on the shelf when they were like closing Toys R Us. And at that point I was like, I'm into Pacific Rim now.
But they're like, these are a buck. You're not going to
Yeah,
pick them up for a buck?
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. And that's I think that's honestly a good thing because I think I can go my whole life and like keep finding, all kinds of cool Ben 10 stuff. But I know like I've got the core 10, so like my soul is happy.
Yeah, but now do you look at it and go, I wish they had, knowing that you could also rectify this, I wish they had made this, or I wish this looked a little bit better than it does. Because there were certainly a lot of design compromises that were made.
That's my favorite thing about being a sculptor is when I go back and look at old toys and I'm like, they nailed it. Like when I look at the Heat Blast figure from like, back when it first came out, it's perfect. And so that's why it's really hard to do Ben 10. And that's one of my most popular like requests is everyone's like, do more Ben 10. And I am like mortified. I'm horrified to touch it because I love it so much that I'm like, I have to get it perfect just like they did, or, I can't. So there's not a lot that they've done that doesn't look on model, but there's certainly like characters they didn't do like, I don't want to give anyone any secrets of like ones I might work on, but they haven't done like the rest of like the circus goons and there's probably all kinds of stuff from Ultimate Alien that they never got to, and that's why I've done Heat Blast and I've done some like the guys in the plumber gear as like a army builder set, and everyone keeps asking me. I get a bunch of DMs of like, who are you doing next? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm kind of just gonna go you know where I kind of want to, so kind of like a Super 7 wave kind of thing.
So, what do you feel then is the best Ben figure out there?
Ben himself,
Yeah.
well, there's only the ones from the like the original like company that made them. There's no third party, which is wild because after the Ramen Racer came out, I was like, you paint that thing green, you got a Ben 10 car right there. Someone's gonna hop on this third party Ben 10 wagon. But I think I never liked the kid Ben. For me, it was just Alien Force Ben. Like he was the perfect one. But there's never been a good Ben 10,000, I think.
So, what I'm hearing is
Oh yeah. I
you
like
could
I've
fix that.
talked, yeah. I've talked to Lance Peter Luke about like how like, oh, here's where I think I kind of want to be at some point. And it's like I want to get as detailed and as good as like a G.I. Joe classified figure.
Right.
And like when I do that, I want to do like a classified version of Ben 10,000 with like his
To
big,
make the ultimate.
yeah, yeah,
So it's good. So, you have a goal. You have a goal in mind. At what
yeah.
point do you think that'll be unlocked for you? How close do you feel?
I think there's like certain things in ZBrush that are really hard, for me to understand at this point. It's a lot of um, like UV mapping and texturing and stuff is like kind of difficult to make sure the seams match. And I think like after I get a good grasp of that, I'm off to the races.
Then you'll be ready. You'll be ready to
Yeah,
finally tackle your ultimate goal.
yeah.
We'll have to get one to my buddy Yuri Lowenthal, so he can have a solid Ben figure. The
Oh, Big Ben 10 fan.
He's the voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
So we'll have to work towards that. You have to let me know when it's ready,
Yeah, for
so we can
sure.
get one to Yuri. You
Yeah,
should
I
you should check you should check out his jacket that he's wearing occasionally.
it's always tough because I think, a lot of people also they want some of the figures that I make, like the Batman or the Spider-Man that I just did. And I don't think a lot of people understand like I'm a starving artist. Like I'm like super poor, very small apartment. I don't have a printer. I don't, have a, like that kind of thing. And it's always something of like, well, what can you print it out? And
You're
I
like,
don't think a lot
no.
of people, yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand like to print like a fully articulated like guy. It takes weeks of like printing it out, testing the tolerance, going back into ZBrush and like, fixing it and stuff. And hopefully one day I can, print one out or have
Oh
someone.
yeah. I mean, it's difficult to print out a finished model that has been tested and to get
Yeah.
it to print right. There is, I mean, we all complain about how much toys cost, but there
Yep.
is a lot of work that goes into it that we just don't see in the final cost because of volume
Yep.
reducing the consumer cost to that. But everyone, this the HasLab that's going on right now for the Cantina has certainly generated a lot of discussion. As we're recording this, the
Yeah.
HasLab Cantina playset about, well, that's ridiculously expensive. And the price that they're charging at first glance feels ridiculously expensive. And people go, well, you can just 3D print that. And I go,
Yeah.
and I look at that thing and I go, that takes a lot of filament. That takes a lot of time. Someone had to still design all of that.
Yep.
There are all these costs and the cost of time in printing, and then what you do when you have it done. Because otherwise, you have a cantina that looks like that, that's just unpainted, unweathered. The cost is legitimate for what you're getting, and to have the skill, talent, time to do that as a 3D print, I don't think people appreciate that as much as they should, and
There's
how much skill it
the
takes.
sculptor from Super 7, Brandon Gash, who just did the Ninja Turtles from like the Jim Lee look. He
Right.
made his like fully articulated figures, and I'm like, if you were to really ask him like how long it actually took to get those to like work like properly, of course he's like, the number one. He's great, but it was probably a really long time, and then if you did the math of like how much per hour it would cost, to have someone do that for you. So I feel bad, but people ask me
Even at a
sometimes,
dirt cheap rate, if you're like, oh, well, we're paying them like $10 an hour.
yeah,
Well, with the amount of hours that goes in, that's still a lot of
yeah,
money. So you can't even go cheap on something like that because it does, as you said, take time.
it does. It's like we're talking, days and weeks here.
I mean, I can, and it's these designs weren't made to be action figures as much as people joke about it. Looking at the Boss Nass,
Yeah,
if someone then go, okay, well, he has to be articulated now. That's not an easy thing with those robes to articulate him, and he's not going to have a head that spins
yeah,
360 just by dint of if you want fidelity to a
yeah.
thing. So when you're approaching a model, how difficult is it when people want articulation or want something to like swappable heads to go, okay, but this will compromise it looking like it should.
It's so hard. I literally was just talking about this yesterday because I'm working on a Mando kit for someone, and it's like you have to think even the Mandalorian with his like his normal like kind of thing. He's got a bunch of layers, right? He's got like a shirt, an undershirt, and then this part, and then like this brown undershirt. And so you have to think like if that's a kit, all three of those have to be separate, but then they have to sit on top of each other and on top of the figure. And so you're already like increasing the shirt, which makes you increase the armor, and then you have to increase the size of like the bandolier. And so sometimes you'll do it and you're like, he looks like he's wearing like a trash can because now everything is like so embiggened. And so
Right.
you really
Or drawn by Rob
do,
Liefeld.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, so I have to do a lot of like, you know, I start off by making it as super accurate as like it looks, photo reference wise, and then from there I have to play around with like scaling things certain ways so that a way they can like slide over top of each other without it losing, the look because you don't want them to like holsters are really hard because they're really easy to do, like a tiny holster for like a production run because it's made of a different plastic. But for a print, everyone knows that like those are so super thin, but it still has to hold the pistol and be able to go on his side. And so sometimes you just end up with a holster that looks like a huge Rob Liefeld pouch on the side
Right.
because like how big it has to be for 3D printing.
Yeah,
And
otherwise it's just going to shatter every time
yeah, yeah.
someone
So
tries to
it's
print it.
it's really tough, and I've learned that with my own, like when I make my hyper articulated stuff. Like I just did Spider-Man, and like his symbol was on the back in a certain spot, but if I wanted a cut there, I had to move the symbol up. And like I had some people say like, the symbol's in the wrong spot, and it's like, yeah, and I learned the hard way that it had to be moved because it would.
It's like,
Yeah,
I know it's in the wrong spot. I wanted it in the right spot. It couldn't go in the right spot.
yeah. I have so much respect for anything that ever makes it to the shelf. It's so crazy, because I know how hard it is to do those things, right? Like you have to make these like weird compromises in order to make stuff work, or like I learned that this chest on this guy will get in the way, and so I have to like squeeze it inward in order to make the arms work, and then it makes it look a little off model, and it's like there's no way around it. So I think like that's why those 2003 Super 7 turtles, like they look so good to me because it's like, oh gosh, like you guys just pulled off one of the hardest things to do.
Right. I mean, and three-dimensional or two-dimensional images are not easily made into three-dimensional because there's a lot of cheats
Yep.
that happen when you're drawing something. I was just having this conversation the other day, and we were talking about because I've been commissioning some figures, um, and slowly but surely we've been bidding out the DuckTales cast.
Oh, that's cool.
But I'm sure you're looking at that right now, like how thin those arms and legs are, how thin that neck is,
Yeah.
uh, working out how the beak actually works when translated to three dimension. This is not an easy thing to pull off. And the cheats on even hair. Okay, well, the hair swoops to the side, but how thick is it?
Yep.
Like, what does that represent in the real world as far as the three-dimensional physical representation of how that works? So do you find doing 2D to 3D translations like that Spider-Man you just did? I mean, we know
Yeah.
what Spider-Man in three dimensions looks like, but that's a stylized Spider-Man. That's not a
Yeah.
human being in that. So there's a lot of cheats that are made on that just for exaggeration or posing. Like you can say that pose looks great, but anatomically trying to pull that that pose
Yeah.
off with a figure, not easy. So how challenging was even doing that Spider-Man for you?
That Spider-Man was, I don't think people realize, like even like the Batman too. I would go in and spend hours, right? Like just taking the calf muscle, moving it a little bit, being like that doesn't look right. Like moving it a little bit, that doesn't look right. And then you're like, oh, it looks great. And then you're like, all right, now let me go from the side. You turn it to the side, and it looks completely different. And even when I'm going off of artwork, right? Like sometimes they have turnarounds of the character, and I pull
Those are
up in
so full of
ZBrush.
cheats.
Yeah, and I pull it up in ZBrush, and it matches. And I'm talking to my partner next to me, and I'm like, they match the drawing, but it doesn't look right, and I
But
don't
it
I don't
doesn't
know
match it
why.
in rotation.
Yeah, and it's super weird.
Right. So to get like that calf jetting out the way it looks in a side profile
Yeah,
doesn't look weird in the cylindrical turnaround of, well, how does it look from the front? How does it look from the back? Wholly from the back, not just that side profile that captured the angle that looked right to capture it.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think I've learned that like the truth lies somewhere in between, and as long as you're really, trying to be honest to those drawings, and like eventually somewhere in there, like as long as you're like capturing the spirit, it'll get there.
So what has been the biggest challenge that you've tackled so far?
I think hair is still really, really hard for me, especially anime hair, or like even Peter Parker's hair. Because like you said, like sometimes they have like those little spikes and things, and then you turn it around and you're like, what would the back of that look like? Because I think it's really like I've never done anything from. I did Danny Phantom one time, but I haven't done a lot from the like Phil Hartman, Nickelodeon, like Fairly Odd Parents kind of style.
Right.
those guys are just straight on, and so like the second they turn, all the proportions are like I have no idea what like Cosmo and Wanda's head would look
I
like
mean,
in
and that's what people producing merchandise, think of Charles Schultz's Peanuts characters.
yeah.
Those, were nightmares to come up with. Well, what is this supposed to be in real life? What how big is this head? How does this fit on this?
I can't remember who it was that I made. It might have been the purple bear from Billy and Mandy, but like there's some characters I've done where the mouth is it's like on the side, like and so I have to instead of making a mouth, I have to draw the mouth like on the side, and that's it. It doesn't exist in 3D. It's just like a mouth on the side.
Yeah, because it looked really good in the drawing
Yeah.
for that expression. But okay, well, how does that carved into a 3D object to pull off that look?
And it's a blast, honestly. I think that's my favorite thing to do. Like if I ever had like a job somewhere like a Super 7, I would want to be like the cartoon guy, like because I think I'm getting pretty good at like copying that kind of style. And that's why I try to around Halloween time I really try to do like a marathon of cartoons like I did Over the Garden Wall, and then last Halloween I did a bunch of like Looney Tunes, a lot of Disney stuff, just trying to capture all the different looks.
I mean, it's been, as I've said before, one of the things for me as a kid was always being disappointed that the figures didn't look
Yeah.
like the things, particularly with animated projects, and to have so many cartoons that you like, and it's like, can someone just please capture Chuck Jones's style in a Daffy Duck or a Bugs Bunny? Because then you get artist specific as you obviously get older and you realize that
Yeah.
there are differences in these things. And you're like, well, I wish that specific style of a character was translated with a fidelity that wasn't disappointing when you look at it and go, that's not quite right. That's just
Yeah.
that's a little off. This is not what I wanted. So you're making compromises whenever you buy a lot of these things and hoping for better. So this rise of talented folks like yourself or like Fan Plastic 4 and the work that he's been doing with Mondo, it's just amazing to see what's possible when you have the talent to do so, and you take the time and you have a dedication to making it as right as possible. That's the thing that I've
Yeah.
appreciated in looking at your work, and seeing what you've done. And again, it's incredibly impressive. And I hope everyone listening to this, watching this right now, goes straight to your Instagram, looks at it, and those in a position to hire you away so you don't have the time to do all of these things for yourself.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, I'm still completely shocked. Like everything I make, I'm always like, that's the worst thing I've ever made, and I don't want to show anyone that.
Well, again,
And
you just sound like an artist to me. You,
yeah, I'm
I
like,
can
those are
tell you as
trash.
someone
Don't.
who's written done stuff, you never get away from that. That'll always be present.
And I think it's good, I really do. And I think it's really important to have honest people. Like Lance Peter Luke's not afraid to be like, change that head or
Yeah.
like,
Here are some
that
notes.
yeah, that looks off, dude. Like, and at the very beginning, it was so hard to deal with that, like as an artist and kind of figure out. I mean, of course, I went through my master's program, so I know what it's like to be critiqued. But sometimes it's just like it's almost like it's your baby, when you're done and someone's calling it ugly, and you're like,
But
you
also,
know,
you want to be done.
yeah,
You,
oh
you
yeah,
do reach a certain point on a project, I can attest to, where you go, I just want this over. And I want someone else to tell me, because I can't see it anymore, but I do
yeah,
want it to be done, to say it's done and it looks great. You get that validation and you can move on. But instead, you're confronted with, no, no, you got this. And you're like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I thought
yeah.
I wanted someone else to tell me I was done.
Yeah, I learned the importance of walking away. Like there was a time where I would send a client the sculpt and I'd be like, I'm not gonna look at the response tonight, like no matter what it is, and take a break. And then when I'm calm, I'll come back. And and so now I'm at a point where I know like nothing's done. It's never done. Yeah.
Particularly when you've had it. I don't know if you've experienced this enough, but I certainly have. When someone gives you notes like that, and your first response would be just like, "Ugh, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I just want to be done." But then you dive back in, and maybe not even specifically their notes, maybe just the idea that they open the door back up to go and readdress a thing makes you then go back and look and you think of things, oh, well, I can do this better. Oh, and here's an epiphany. Here's this edit works like I didn't think it would. So if I hadn't have gone back in because someone else pushed the door open, then I would not have gotten to the better place with it by readdressing it, having had a little time to go, okay, well, I guess I'm going to commit myself because someone else pushed me
Yeah.
into having to open that door up again.
And it's just like a quick thing about me. It's been crucial to like my evolution as a person because through my art, like my master's degree and stuff, wasn't I felt weird because I wasn't that artist. They used to talk about like, you got to be in there all night. Uh you have to when you're done with the work, you have to go back and fix it. And I wasn't that artist. I wasn't the kind of person like when I'm done, I'm done. I'll throw it in the trash. I don't want to redo it. And they would give me notes of like, you should go in and try to cut it and re-weld it. And I'd be like, I'm done. And I think it was just because I was in the wrong medium. Because now that I'm in toys and like, digitally sculpting, I feel that way. Like I genuinely go back to things sometimes and I care about it. And I really like, I sculpt into the wee hours of the night and I get like obsessed about it and I can't not touch my computer and I have to change it and things like that. So I think it's been really, really healthy to keep getting those like, nope, stop, go back, fix it, and then actually having to do it. Like that practice has like completely changed me as a person, I think.
Do you think is it different in being able to go back and approach it and feeling willing to go back and approach it, having that difference between working with physical materials and digital materials? Because if you're talking about like I welded this thing, that's a physical thing that you have altered,
Yeah.
that you may have gotten to at a point where you can't get it back to the point that would make it better with certain materials because the physical material, let's say your sculpt, you've already taken away too much from the thing to bring it back and add back in
Yeah.
effectively. So you just have to start over again. Whereas in digital, you don't have the materials issue just yet.
It is, sometimes like the money part of the materials is big, because I would, sometimes get those critiques and it's like, well, I can't buy another slab of mahogany. So
It is what it is.
yeah, it is what it is, but it is very much easier to go back and, fix things, in digital files. But I think also some people think some things are more easily fixed because it's digital. And I always have to do a lot of coaching of like, I could have fixed that, had I known about it before, but these meshes have been merged already, and so like I can't really separate them that way, or I can't cut the head, like on Boss Nass or something because it's already part of the body, like
Right.
that kind of. So I think that's part of it that's different is I have to do a lot of explaining about how yes it's easier but there are also new problems because it's digital.
Right. So,
Yeah.
uh, do you have a preference between the two then? Ultimately,
I've
if
never
cost wasn't an issue, so you're not dealing with that as far as hard materials.
Yeah, I think I've never made a like a wax, sculpt of a toy or something. I've always my work was super weird, as a professional sculptor. It was, super deep stuff. I had a dissertation I wrote, like it was some wild stuff. It was a lot of performance work, huge sculptures, and I just think I was in a different point in my life where I was kind of like a punk art kid and I was talking about stuff. And now I'm just at a different point in my life where like I don't think I feel like the need to like get that stuff out or talk about that stuff. And so now I'm really interested in the craft. And you'll see it sometimes I'll make a super articulated thing or something from Star Wars, but then on my Instagram it'll pop up like here's a weird character I made with like a story that I wrote kind of thing. And those are kind of the new ways that I get that, kind of energy from what I used to make into what I make now, I think.
Right. So that more digital arena
Yeah.
gives you the time to. I mean, did you like working with that sort of tactile feeling of real materials?
I did. I actually, my whole practice was centered around, I had rules, and the rules were like really important to what I made. It was a lot of, I can't glue anything, I can't screw anything together. All my work was made out of found objects that had to fit together. And so I would really have this conversation with the items, and like they would kind of talk to each other and me about how they would be put together. And I did love, doing that kind of thing. And I think, that's kind of what got me into like, I'm like bootleg toys. And I thought that that was cool. And you can like slice up existing figures to make your own and stuff. So I do miss that. But in my day job, I'm like, I work at a ballet, and so I do costume design, and like I work on the set and make props and stuff. And so I still get to do that kind of stuff, like with what they
So that
physically
that
have.
itch is getting scratched.
Yeah.
Uh, do you recall? So Ben 10 was your big intro to collecting.
Yeah.
Uh, do you recall when Star Wars sort of entered into the picture for you?
Oh, Star Wars was there, I think, before I even came out of the womb. In it was in the house. My dad was a Star Wars guy, my uncle was a Star Wars guy, and it was just there. Like I remember, it's weird. I have a horrible memory. I really do. But there's one vague one that I remember my dad and my uncle coming home from wherever, and they had Phantom Menace toys that they had bought. And I remember my dad having like Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber. And that was like the first, the Star Wars toys got brought into the house, moment I think that I remember.
And how
Yeah.
many of those wound up being yours? Did they ever get passed on, or
Oh,
the
all of them.
collections were separate?
All of them. And, my uncle gave them to me. And then my brother, he was a real, like, he got out of toys quick, and they all became mine. And I never stopped. I
So what was then the first Star Wars figure that you fell in love with?
think
That you thought was the coolest thing ever?
I really liked anything with a lightsaber. And I had that first Mace Windu from episode one. And then
Was it the first
I had,
first one, or the was it the one with the blue lightsaber, the preview figure, or
yeah, it
the
wasn't the preview figure, it was whichever one came in the red package.
so the
That's the
episode
one.
one figure that still I think had the blue lightsaber?
Yeah. I had that one, and then I had Qui-Gon, and my brother had Obi-Wan. And then for some reason we both had a Darth Maul. Like we both had to get one. But those, I remember those were my like my favorite ones. They had like, we had to, back then we put a big Sharpie, like our letter on the back of them, so we knew like this was mine, that was his.
You
So
Toy Storied them.
yeah, so Qui-Gon Jinn always had a big T on the back of him.
Do you still have that Qui-Gon?
Oh yeah, I still got everything.
And it's still how sharp is that big T on it still?
Yeah, he's good. He's good. I think I had a lot of fun. I was a little kid then, but then like you slowly get a little more cognizant, and I think around episode two, I was more aware. And so I would pick things for my birthday and stuff like that. And I remember then making choices, and the choices were like, I want Plo Koon, or I want Obi-Wan, but I want the one with the magnet in his hand. Because I like to be able to put the metal lightsaber in. I thought that was the coolest thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's a shame they've never gone back to metal lightsabers. What a weird period to have tiny little metal lightsaber hilts
Yeah. They
like
never
that.
would Blade would never like stay in it when I
Nope.
played, but that didn't matter.
So, at what point then did you move away from Star Wars? Was it during that same period when you just turned away from toys in a bit, or was it always sort of hanging there in the background?
I was a weird kid. I was like on, we know now that I'm on the spectrum. Back then it was just, Tristan's a little off. And so my happy place was in my room with all my toys. And I physically couldn't get rid of any toys. So, I don't think it ever stopped. I never got out of Star Wars. I never stopped Star Wars. It was, I think Star Wars stopped at one point. It was the Clone Wars, it kind of died down, and I didn't see any Rebels toys at like my Walmarts and stuff. That's when I
Right.
was like in college. That's the only time I think that I've stepped off the gas a little bit, like on Star Wars, is just because I really couldn't find anything.
And then so when did it come back?
Well, The Force Awakens, hard.
Do you remember
And
the
those,
first Force Awakens toy you bought?
oh, I did. Actually, this is it, we were nuts for Force Awakens. We were so ready because at that time I was a freshman in college, and I had my first like job over the summer. I was a construction worker. I had money. I was saving up. I remember the leaked picture of the Black Series Kylo Ren came out from like a Chinese store, and I kept it on my phone every day before work. And I was like this is it. Like you're working, so you can buy that. And it's the first time I've ever gone to like a Star Wars website was for The Force Awakens to like look for news about when it was happening. And I remember the first thing we bought was me and my friend in undergrad. We walked to the local like Walmart, and they had a Kylo Ren like in the kids dishes section. They had a Kylo Ren like eating placemat thing, and we bought it. I don't know why.
Just to have something.
Yeah, at that point, the only thing we'd seen of him was the trailer where he like from the back, and this was like a full front like look of Kylo Ren, and like we both bought one, and then we tried to buy a BB-8 shirt, and for some like they like turned us away. They're like, "Oh, we can't sell these yet," and it was wild. It
You
was
sold us
wild
the
time.
mat. We got the placemat.
Yeah, and it's like the most look we had at BB-8, and like it had all of them and like at different angles and stuff, and like we were obsessed. It was a great time.
That was the same way my generation felt for the special editions coming
Really,
out. We had such a long period of nothing. So for those special editions to come up and then the excitement for Phantom Menace, just the idea of new Star Wars was exciting.
I
No matter
really
what anyone thought about what the movie, when it came out at the time, and certainly it was divisive, the lead up to it, no one can claim they weren't excited about the prospect of new Star Wars existing for our generation at that point.
I think like I'm also really weird when it comes to liking stuff because I really can find 6 or 7 things to like about anything, like even the worst thing. So I just love stuff, like I'm alive, I'm happy, I like things, I like these movies, I love Star Wars, and so like I love it all,
If only more people could think that way
Yeah.
about a piece of entertainment.
That's another part of just people commissioning me for things is I learn what people like the most. I'm like, really? I'm like, I've never heard of that character, and like that's your favorite one. It's so cool.
So then what character for you is like that? What is your go-to character?
My go-to character is, I mean, it's just it might be a generational thing. I don't because I know people think he's like edgy, but I love Starkiller from The Force Unleashed like a lot. Like that was my guy. He was my favorite like toy to play with, but I was really obsessed with like because I can't play video games for some reason. I just like I can't focus, and so my favorite characters were like these weird Sith I had no idea about, like Darth Malak or like Nihilus or like Bane or any of the things from like the Old Republic, and I only interacted with them through toys. So I would see the toy and be like, "Who's that? That's the coolest guy ever." Yeah, and then I could just make things up about them because I didn't know anything about it, and so I think I was really
Malgus is
grabbing.
a keen gardener. He
Yeah,
loves to take walks.
yeah, and I got like I was in a small country town, and so sometimes at our comic or like our library comic section, someone must have turned it in or something. I would get a weird comic book, that was like Star Wars, and some of them were from that time period. It's weird. It was like the Mandalorian Wars, like where all the drawings looked super like Egyptian and techie and stuff.
Right.
Like that kind of weird era of Star Wars.
Definitely
Really
in
like
Legends.
that stuff. I think yeah, I love Legend stuff. I love ancient Sith weird 90s era drawings Star Wars. Yeah.
Is there any that is on your list when you have the time of things that you want to do in 3D form?
There wasn't, but there is now because I just got the Marvel Unlimited app and I found the 51 issue run of Star Wars Legacy. And in the beginning, I was like, man, who's this Cade Skywalker guy? Like, who's this like Nirvana 90s greasy guy? Wasn't digging it. And here I am, like, I think I'm on issue 34 right now. And I'm like, I love this guy. I need him. I need it. Like,
That will be on my shelf.
yeah, I'm like his Darth Vader pants, his like weird Mandalorian like chest armor thing. I've got to have it. So if I could make a full figure of someone, like he's on my list right now.
Well, I mean, the gauntlet has been thrown down to yourself. You have to make that happen.
It has.
Uh, we're gonna start with your list of choices.
Okay.
So, and you're gonna rank these from 5 to 1. So, we're gonna be building up to your number one. So now you may be rearranging these in your head right now as we go. So, what is your number five choice?
Okay, number five choice. I can definitely do that. Number five. I couldn't. There's two. I couldn't pick one. I'm sorry.
That's
They're
fine.
together. It's Mission Fleet, Moff Gideon, and Crosshair.
Oh, that is great. So, which already speaks, you like stylization.
I love it.
It's a shame that we've gotten so little style. I regret that we've lost the Clone Wars stylization being
Yep.
made into figure form. Like I wish that could exist as a thing. I would love to see those stylized designs make it into Black Series scale. So, what about Mission Fleet do you like so much?
Think like growing up, one of the other big things for me was like Mega Blocks, the little like tiny guys. So that scale, I guess, as much as for an older generation, 3 3/4 is like a scale that they really like. I think this smaller 1 to 2 inch kind of scale really like had a life in my kind of toy culture, and these were off my radar. I remember like passing them by. They were on clearance. It's like, I don't know. It wasn't for me. One day, I don't know what it was. I just realized, like the glass shatter in my head, sound. And I was like, these are the coolest things they've ever made. And I'll trade my whole collection to have a tiny version of them. Yeah, I really like the chunky, stylized kind of thing. And I think like a big part of my philosophy of like sculpts I like because I want it to look like it's carved out of a piece of bubble gum. And that's really, like you said, the Clone Wars, I guess, is an influence on that. But I really, really enjoy like when wrinkles are sculpted, they're like crisp and tight, and the planes look like they've been, flattened and polished. And oh, I love it. And so they did a crazy good job
Do you
on
like
style.
an angular sort of carved look?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, there's a thing you can do onto your sculpt in ZBrush, like you can deformation polish like a thing, and it'll like kind of tighten up some of that stuff. And ooh, I love it. It's like chef's kiss.
So
And
what of the models you've done that you've made to be, have a fidelity to the source material that you would love to do your own version of that has that sort of angular approach if you were to apply that to it?
I I've done I did Ghostbusters version of these. I did Zartan from GI Joe like as a version of this. I think I don't think I'm not like interested in doing like a Marvel kind of thing, but I'm obsessed with the sculpts from Fortnite, and I'd really like to do like a Fortnite guy in this kind of like little chunky scale.
Which Fortnite character?
Oh, there's so many. My favorite Fortnite character is Ripley. He's like a translucent blue goo man, and that's just right up my alley. Yeah,
No, I mean as someone who plays Fortnite, yes, there are a lot of great designs within that. It's a shame that action
yeah.
figure line did not go any further than it did.
It's I'm it's kind of like a big secret is like I've sold most of my collection just just to be able to live my life. I had to like sell most of it. The, I, I've kept it all, and that's like pretty crazy for me. So I must really like it.
So, what is your favorite of the Fortnite figures that were produced?
I have I forgot his name. Please don't get mad at me, Fortnite guys. He's the spacesuit. He's a fish in a spacesuit. He's literally his like helmet just has a little fish.
Is the jar
Yeah,
the tank? Yes.
yeah, that's my favorite one. And for some reason on my shelf right now, I've got like they did like a military like Sergeant Santa. His
Yeah.
like his
I,
bandolier instead of bullets, canes in it.
is that Sergeant Winter? I think is the character name.
Yeah, you got it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, but they do definitely have that car. Particularly the older they've softened it a bit, but the original designs did have that more
yeah.
carved angularity to the character designs. But they haven't even produced like a
I
really
have like
solid Jonesy figure yet. That
yeah.
was
I don't think
really
they have.
accurate.
I think I've got a few Skull Troopers, and like that's the representation of Fortnite. For me, he's got the shin guards and the bandana on his arm. So it's really like season one Fortnite. I think is the Skull Trooper.
Yeah, they it's a shame that that line uh didn't go any further than it did. Toys are weird.
Yeah,
The toy
toys
industry
are
is weird.
weird. Weird.
But it does speak that it
Yeah,
seems like that liking that design aesthetic, and you've done models using it, and some great models. I'm looking at one on my other screen right now. The Spider-Verse movies seems like they're right up your
oh
alley
yeah,
as well, design wise.
they, they are. I love it. It's those movies particular. There's a lot of things that when they're so popular, I'm like I know that there's other people in the community that are like light years better than me, and I'm like, oh, this guy's gonna make ahead of that. I don't even want to attempt it because I just know that like this guy do it and it's gonna look way better. But there's some things that like I don't know, as artists, like there's just stuff I want to chew on. Like I have to digest it, and like in order to do that, I have to try to make it.
Well, I mean, the work you did, and why am I forgetting her name? Uh, uh, Miguel's digital assistant.
Oh yeah, yeah, Lila.
Yes, is an incredible sculpt. And speaking of the hair, I mean, you did the hair great on that as well. Although, that at least is a 3D character as opposed to a 2D in a
Yeah,
3D film. So there's more chance to get solid reference for it in turnaround.
I think the hardest thing about sculpting anything is when you can't find good pictures. And Lila, the pictures in the art book are from a different design. And then I go to pause the movie and the frame rate, she just moves so fast, like you can barely get
An
little
outline of
images of,
something that,
yeah,
I
it
mean,
was really hard
you
to
did
kind
you
of
did a
figure
great
that out.
job on it. So,
Thank you.
and the glasses, pulling off the. Now, has anyone done a print of it yet?
No, I don't think so.
No one's
No, I
attempted
don't,
it
it's
yet.
weird. Yeah, she hasn't got of course, the Batman and Spider-Man, I get a lot of messages of like, can I have it? Can I have this model? But Lila, for some reason, I don't know. I think she's just kind of niche.
Oh, I mean, but it's also the weird way the internet works is
Yeah,
you never know when someone's going to see something or if they're going to see something. You just put it out there, and it could be something that people would love, but just the nature of timing and algorithm and whatever, they may never see it. So hopefully, and I'll put a screenshot up as we're talking about it so people can see just how good it is. That they'll go check it out and find out how to do it. But yeah, no, they at least need to see how
yeah.
good it looks because it does look great, and you with the alternate head sculpts really captured the personality well as well. Uh, and the morph heads are great
Thank you.
too. Speaking of
That's
animated
another one.
characters.
When I tell you, I thought I screwed those up so bad. Like when I was sculpting it that night, when I like rendered it and went to bed, I told my partner, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna post these. I was like, I don't think I did it.
Well, you were wrong.
I was like, no one's gonna look at these. It's fine. Don't.
No, I mean, again, and I thought watching that and knowing that the only morph figure that we had had to that point only just had, a an X-Men original X-Men animated normal evilish looking head, but none of the ones that you see all the time in 97. I was like, "Oh, those are great." And it's
Yeah,
great that those exist. Now, have people printed those out and put them on their more figures yet?
they have. Yeah, it's some people like tag me and stuff, and I see it, and it's just wild because, like I said, my collection is teeny, teeny, tiny. I think I have three Marvel Legends over there, and I can't print anything. And so it's like, I know I personally would love to like print a morph, put it on there, like that kind of thing. So it really fulfills that extra step when people do it and then show me. It really like it means a lot.
Well, to anyone watching this that can print out a morph head, so Tristan can have his own sculpt
Yeah.
on a figure. Uh, please, I'm talking to those people that have 74 printers in their house that are
Yeah.
constantly going, churning stuff out. Your birthday's got to be coming up eventually. That's how birthdays work. So, someone who's got a 3D printer, I'm looking at, I don't know, maybe someone whose name starts with L, print out a morph head so you can put one of those morph heads on your figure. Because that would be swell. What are the Marvel Legends figures that you have on your shelf?
I've got Comic Kang, and he's in the time chair sculpt that I did. And then I've got
I didn't know you
he's
did a
like
sculpt of the time chair.
I did a long time ago, and that's back when I had a printer, and so I got one of those. And then I forgot Iron Man, but I can't remember. He's from the wave that Blue Marvel was in. He's the Iron Man with all the white circles all over him. Might be Marvel now, I think.
Yeah, that's a few years back now, right?
Yeah, I got him at Ollie's, and I'm just like sculpturally obsessed with it. And now that we've talked about it, I think I know why. He's very like bubblegum
He's
choppy
he's got
sculpt.
that.
And I've got a astonishing X-Men Cyclops.
That's is that the black suit
He's just
or
like
the streamlined suit?
yeah, he's like all navy, and then he's got the like the bald cap swimmer look.
Yeah, the diver Cyclops,
Yeah, yeah, and that's
wetsuit
it.
Cyclops.
Yeah,
Uh, is there any that you would love to have that
I
are
think
characters that you really?
I get to, and it's taken me a long time. It's almost like therapy. It's taken me a while to like get to the point where I can enjoy a figure by seeing someone else have it or unbox it. And very rarely does it get to that point where I'm like, I can't get that joy unless I also physically have it. And I think that like Captain America, the evil one that just came out, where he was the like the Hydra cap,
The Hydra cap, right?
that sculpt is just it's beautiful, and I really want it. And
I
then
think was
also
that
the
a Walmart exclusive? I
think
think.
so, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't seen it anywhere, but I think the fact that he just has one yelling face really kind of puts me off from like getting it.
yeah. I not like when they. I would rather have a resting face
Yeah,
than an intense face because most of the
yeah,
time they're just standing on a shelf, so it just looks odd. Like, why is he yelling? Why don't
yeah.
you just relax, chill out? You're standing on a shelf. It's
It's
fine.
it's him and the new Tombstone.
Oh yes, the in the retro packaging.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful toy. Like I'm like I don't even know anything about that guy. I gotta have that thing.
No, just a great design, just a great
Yep.
execution on it. I mean, that's the same reason I got, you sometimes it sparks childhood memories of designs that just left in imprint. And I recently picked up the Jack-o'-lantern figure from that same retro line,
Oh yeah.
which just is great. And he's back behind me now, hanging on fishing line, on his little pogo ball platform thing. Uh, it's just a great design. I mean, sometimes just as you said, you spark to a design that you
Yeah.
may have no affection for the character itself, but a design just really hits you.
Yeah.
What then do you think is the character design wise that you have had the strongest reaction to in your life?
I think I really love armor from X-Men, so I had to make my own, of course. That's like I just was obsessed with it. And another one is there's an X-Men character called Glob Herman. He's just a like a pink goo man, and he's got like a skeleton inside of him. And I don't like if anyone ever made that, I don't know what I'd have to pay to get it.
So how could you execute that?
I know I've thought about it. It's my white whale of like,
So is it just like a white skeleton inside
yeah, he's
the
just a
goo?
skeleton inside of a goo man.
So hear me out. What if you were to take a skeleton model, pose it, make sure all the bones had some kind of connectivity,
Yeah,
and then you had a fill hole on the bottom so you could sculpt the whole thing in your resin and then
yeah.
pour in the white that would be filling in that crevice inside that is the skeleton inside it.
I've I've planned out how to do him like actually articulated like a Marvel Legend. And I mean, I'm sure like someone from Hasbro or like a Marvel Legend guy would be like, that's not, you probably can't do that. But since the like injection, like the pinless joints have come out,
Right?
like that joint is just hot and injected in there. And I've thought, well, I can make a hollow part inside of like the arm and the leg and the knee. And so when they inject that joint, it just goes further down into the leg and is
Injects
like
the
like
color down.
yeah, and so it's like a white joint, and so it fills it up to look like a bone in there. And so like that's kind of how I think I do it. And then I do like the chest hollow with like, the rib cage inside so it can go around on a ball joint. So I'm like I might try to do it at some point. Yeah.
Do a proof of concept. Like,
Yeah.
hey, make this happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's so many things I make that people from actual companies look at and they're like, kid, that's not how that works.
Or they look at it and go, why didn't we think of that?
I hope.
Jeez. Get Legend Larry in here.
Yeah.
We have to fix this. What am I paying you for? Like, this guy fixed it. He figured it out. Why can't you? That's the way you start looking at it that way. They're all looking at it going, there's the epiphany
Yeah, I
that we
hope.
needed. Regardless, you're doing it in the meantime. So, I mean, that's what is great about this community in general is that, these are things that are being made now that, you know, there are myriad reasons we know why figures don't get made
Yeah.
at major companies when, budgets, timing, if it's licensed material, what the licensor says is the timing for releasing a certain thing or not releasing a certain thing. So it is filling a gap and a niche that is exists, and who knows, maybe there'll be actual versions of these things released at some point. I mean,
Hopefully.
I think it's Robo's law that if
Yeah,
Robo ever starts a custom and takes the time to do that, an official version will be released.
that's my big evil plan. If I have like a secret plan, it's to be the Mondo Real Ghostbusters effect. I want to do that for Ben 10. Like that's my dream goal is if someone ever makes a Ben 10 line and I'm not on it, I'm gonna like I'll be devastated.
Well, again, I we need to see your perfect Ben.
Yeah, I know.
As soon as you have the time, you make what you think is the perfect Ben,
Yeah.
and then you go, hey, companies, let's work on this. Let's get going.
Yeah.
I don't know what Fan Plastic Four's path was to Mondo, but he was certainly doing that stuff before that happened.
Yeah, NECA, if you just want to set up a Ben 10 division, in a garage, I'll start it.
Yeah, secret Ben 10 division.
Yeah.
So the mission fleet. How many of the mission fleet figures have you gotten so far?
I think it'd be easier to say
And
which ones
Ollie's is great. Ollie's has been really great for picking up
they
those
have.
mission fleet sets. I
I
just
think
saw
it,
another batch of them hit Ollie's this past couple of weeks. So
and I don't have an always near me at all unless I go back home to visit my mom. And so like I don't when I do go, I stock up on whatever they have. I think it'd be easy.
you just need people in town there just to send you photos. Just go and
I,
walk the aisle and give you updates and go, okay, pick those up.
yeah, I think I'm missing uh Luke from The Mandalorian. I'm missing Ahsoka, and I'm missing I think like Jedi Clone Wars Anakin, and I think maybe Fennec Shand, and that's like it. I think that I'm missing.
And you've got the whole line.
Yeah,
So then, loving that aesthetic, what figures do you wish had been translated into it before that line ended?
it's my like if I ever have a weekend off, my like one of my I have a list of sculpts that I want to do, and just depending on the weekend, it's like which one do I kind of want to mess with? And the number one is Balin skull. I want a Balin skull in this, size badly.
But he would be so lonely unless he had a shin
I
with
know.
him. But that's a slippery slope. Then you're like,
I
oh,
know.
okay, well, then I need to build all of them out.
Yeah. It's like now I need a Thrawn and I need an Enoch.
Did they do droids in the Mission Fleet line?
I have a Sith probe droid. I've got the one from Kenobi. His name's like B something. He's the big yellow one.
Right.
And then I've got a dark trooper, but I don't know if they've
But
made
they
any
haven't
of
done like a C3PO or an R2 in that
them.
style.
They have not, no.
Kind of weird. That's usually their automatic go-to characters in every line is to at least
Yeah,
build an R2 and a C3PO.
yeah. Which
Makes
is
me wonder what that style would that and a Yoda in that style.
yeah,
I'm kind of curious because they didn't do a lot of Jedi either, right? Like
you know, like I need a Qui-Gon, I need a Count Dooku.
got a little Mission Fleet Mace Windu.
Yeah. Oh, that purple lightsaber.
What about a
Like
Mission Fleet Plo Koon? How would that look?
it'd be pretty great. And they'd have to have the Clone Wars armor on for me.
What's great is then you can just repaint the Jedi Starfighter that came with
Yeah.
the Ahsoka and make it all the different Jedi Starfighters for all of them.
I just I haven't done it yet, but a lot of times I post pictures or like I make a project of like if I were in charge right now, here's what I would put on the shelf. Like I do that sometimes, or like I create a line, and I've got this whole thing in my head of like how to relaunch Mission Fleet and like how I would want it to look, kind of thing. And like I think there's the coolness of them is like how small they are, and I want like the cardboard end cap display, at Walmart or something. And I want the little box to be like this big, just a tiny, cute little box that you can, pick
Almost a
up and
blind box kind of size.
yeah. And like I want it to have a little window so you can see them. And I want to launch with like 15 characters, like right out the bat. So it really does feel like the company itself has like invested like in this line like kind of like in the old Clone Wars days.
Right.
Yeah, I
Well,
think it like
they stylistically they're sort of like a half ground between the Galactic Heroes line
yeah,
and the I'm trying to remember the name of the Disney Toy Box game,
yes, yeah,
which had that same sort of angular style that you
yeah.
spoke to.
And it's something that like I just love to be in the room, on that team because you can tell that over the years it's like they've been wrestling with it, like how because like you said, there's so many lines that are attempting that kind of stylized Star Wars, and so it's like, where does it land? How do we nail it? Do we try again? Like, yeah,
Yeah, I mean now we have those new bargain line of figures. I think it's
yeah,
the Epic line, um, which are not quite hitting it for me
yeah,
since it's like it's so well you're so close to having like just completely accurate sculpts
yeah,
and you're not the retro figures, but it's falling in this weird zone that it feels more like, why didn't you just try harder to get it better? Even though I know it's a stylized choice,
Yeah.
it just like the sculpts are not quite, it's like an uncanny valley of sculpt fidelity
You're
on
so right.
those.
You're so right.
And the scaling feels that way too. It's like, but we were so close to getting one or the other.
Yeah, I remember talking to the Plastic Geek on Instagram like a while ago. Like we were talking about what's the one toy that you want, and I want the Force Awakens era like 5 POA style. I want a Mando, from The Mandalorian in that style. So when these figures were announced, I was like, oh, we're finally getting it. But then I saw it at the store, and I'm like, something is off. It's not, fully there. It's like 80% hyper style. Like, I don't know.
Right. It wants to be a retro figure from the retro
Yeah,
collection. But it also wants to be a modern figure, but it winds up looking not enough like either. So instead it just looks weirdly deformed.
yeah.
Like it looks
It.
like a knockoff. The problem is they look like knockoff figures.
Do you remember the like the $5 ones that were showing up at like the checkout at Walmart?
Yes, those are the ones that are 6 inch ish scale, right?
Yeah, that's what they look like. And I kind of it's like I don't. I'm getting buyer confusion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. Like, I would just take the vintage collection sculpts and just take the articulation out. Just make them
Yep.
straight arms, straight legs, which is essentially when you had the 5 POA and the Black Series 3 3/4 inch line. That's what they were doing.
Yeah.
You'd have an articulated one, which was in their Black Series 3 3/4, and then you'd have the 5 POA was your budget line, but the sculpts were exactly the same except for the articulation. I mean,
Yeah.
I would love if you had 5 POA, do the face printing on them so
Yep.
they look good, but these just feel weird.
They.
They feel like a bootlegger, just sort of like, well, we did as best we could. They're super cheap. It's Deeth Mater and Rokatarn. Uh
Yeah. I think honestly, I think they would make sense if they had the same articulation as the like Spin Master Batman line, and then now there's the Marvel version of like Epic Heroes.
right,
Because that's what they are. It's the same sculpting style, but then they're like, well, it's Star Wars, so it needs this like articulation.
right. Well, I mean, but they I would say the Marvel ones are better sculpts fidelity wise. Like their X-Men 97 ones are pretty good sculpts.
Those are pretty cool. Yeah.
They look right. Whereas the Star Wars just seem oddly just ill proportioned.
Yeah. They're just a little soft. It's like a someone hit a 2% filter button, like a stylized filter. So they're not one or the either.
Yeah, yeah. We're like really layered the paint on
Yeah.
too thick. Like the enameled. They look like they're enameled figures.
Yeah. Which coming from like a creative person, like if you put yourself in the situation of like the team, like that has to be something hard, that there has to be people on the team that wanted it one way and something had to happen to make it the way that it is, because if we're getting confused as consumers, then there must have been some kind of confusion on the making of the thing, of like where do we land on this thing? And it must have landed at, where it is, which is I don't know, one or the either.
Right. And I know
Yeah.
as a kid, I would have looked at the thing and wanted the thing that looked better.
Yeah.
Like if I saw that sitting next to a vintage style character sitting right beside it, I'd go, the vintage one looks more like what's in the show or the movie. I want that one because it looks better,
Yeah.
and then my parent would have gone, but that one is twice as much.
Yeah.
So, but it looks better. And then it
Yeah.
would have been some kind of negotiation where you can get two of the bad looking ones or just one of the good looking one. And of course, I would have gotten one of the good looking one because that was the kid I was. I wanted
Yeah.
fidelity more than anything else. But it's as we all know, we don't know what decisions go on in the corporate level of
Yeah.
budget and time and approvals and there's so much that goes into it that we don't understand. It's certainly not worth the anger and vitriol and
No.
personal attacks that people will resort to over because they're just toys at the end of the
Yeah.
day. It's
Honey, don't buy it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or buy buy the thing that you like,
Yeah.
or wait around for the thing that you like better to come along. Speaking of which, let's go to your number four choice.
Just super crazy that we mentioned it. Because I have two here. They're gonna occupy the same spot. I'm sorry, I'm breaking the rules, I know. But
Listen, they're made to be broken.
The Force Awakens, Sidon Ithano, the Crimson Corsair, and then the Guavian Death Gang Enforcer.
I mean, they're great. It's great paint work. I mean, as
Yeah,
far as five POA figures, what they were doing with five POA was great. Like they were putting all the same effort into them.
yeah,
Just like, hey, but these are for kids. When that was a consideration they were actively pursuing.
yeah. It's the sculptor who, like, I follow their work and stuff, and I can't their name escapes me, but they show the renders of these, and like you could send this to the Black Series immediately. They're so detailed, and like that's why I like them. And also, being I've been kind of a poor guy all my life, and so being able to just go pick up a Star Wars guy for less than $10 was great. Yeah,
And have it look great.
yeah, and have it. You can put these on the shelf with your like vintage collection or your more articulated stuff, and they fit in well because they have that. They follow the rule of they're scaled the same, the sculpts are the same fidelity, and other than the articulation, that's really it. So they
And they
still
didn't compromise on the paintwork.
no, not at all. So they fit in perfect.
I mean, the only issue with that era and vintage of figures, obviously, is they didn't have the face paint tech available yet, so that
Yeah,
wasn't even an option. But I've mentioned it before that like this Kira figure is fantastic
yeah,
from the five POA line of solo figures, and sometimes you get a paint that looks great. That
yeah.
it managed to look great on the face painting. Uh, so yeah, to have that or like the Radis figure from Rogue One.
Yeah.
It's only available in the 5 POA, folks. If you want it in your collection, that's the only way to get it. So, I mean, there are people that are angry about articulation. I'm not. I'm happy if a character exists
Yeah.
and looks good. Like, this Baron Papanoida
Oh,
looks
that's
great.
cool.
And it actually looks, unlike the Black Series figure, that is a great George Lucas sculpt, too.
Yeah.
So, we haven't gotten this beyond this release. Um, so yeah, I mean, and those two characters, I mean, and that's got like what, like a gloss on the helmet of the Corsair.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this dude. Don't know anything about him. Don't need to.
He looks great.
Yeah.
So, but no Black Series release for him. We have gotten one for the Guavian, but not.
Yeah.
So, when are we going to get a Corsair? Because we that's an easy kit bash, right? Like that's a
It is.
standard body type. Like
Yeah. I
you
think,
really just need the helmet, and is the cape the same sort of drape over cape we've seen in other characters?
yeah, you could probably just give him the like mud trooper cape.
So it's really just a sculpt of the helmet, and you got a Corsair.
Yeah. I think that's the hard part too, is now, it's like I'm at that point where what's the what's the Joker say? Like if you're good at something, never do it for free. So it's like, yeah, I do want this for myself, but I'm gonna wait till someone pays me to
So
make
what
it.
what we're saying is we're putting it out there right now. Anyone watching this, if you've been wanting a Corsair,
I'll do it.
Tristan's the one to commission. Reach
Yeah.
out to him on his Instagram.
Yeah, I'll do it with love.
Make that a reality. Somebody out
Yeah.
there. See, this is how this is work. We're gonna work through your list and slowly make sure that everyone just comes in with commissions.
Yeah.
So then what's your number three on the list? Is this another one that we're gonna prompt someone to come in with a commission for?
Oh, my number three, like
Your number
up
three on your
high.
list.
Okay. My number three. Oh, this is tough because I remember I have to do it in the
You're
order.
you're building up to it. You're number one. So now you're it's getting difficult. Is your halfway point to your number one?
Okay. My number three, and he's important because he got me back into this scale, and it's the vintage collection Death Watch Mando.
So what was it about him that got you back into 3 3/4?
This is weird, and I understand that toy people have very different opinions, and this is just my sculptor opinion. I cannot stand hinges on hips at all. They like the toy might as well be dead to me. I can't play with it. I don't they really weird me out and they don't work right. And then
Do you
he
have a figure handy that you can show a hip that you don't like?
I do. There's let me see right here in the vintage collection box. Let me see. Where you at, Mock Gideon? Like, so here's the Kylo Ren vintage collection like figure, and if you look, the hip is a hinge. And so if you want it to go forward, you have to like bend the thing, make sure the hinge is facing forward, and then you can get it up. And it's just something in my brain goes, ugh, I don't want it. And I don't want to mess with it. But when they switch to the ball joint, it immediately just turns it into a completely different thing. Like the whole thing comes alive for me. Like I really like it. So I have to watch YouTube videos to make sure if I'm gonna buy one that it has the right hips that I want.
So who's
Yeah,
your go-to? Who do you trust on those videos? Who's your
there's a I don't know his name. There's a guy. It's like Bosk something.
Oh, Tim from Bosk's Bounty?
Yeah, that's my favorite one. And I can even scroll and like I can see he does this like right on screen. Like, I'm like, yep. That's how I make my list of like, Thrawn, he's okay. Hera is good. Ezra's good. Yeah.
So what was the latest one that you were disappointed did not have those?
It was the Mud Trooper Din Djarin because my partner loves Pedro, who doesn't love Pedro Pascal, and we were like, hey, his head sculpt is on there. We were excited and we got it, and then I got home and the hinges and the hips.
But that head sculpt is not the that was they did him dirty on that head sculpt.
I think it's the best one because
You
the
think
black,
you think that's the best one? I thought the in the 3 3/4 scale.
yeah, the Black Series one is I don't know
Oh,
who
the
that
Black
is.
Series one. I don't know who that is. That's his stand in.
Yeah, that looks like Shrek when he like becomes a human.
I did the swap out with the one from the what was the heist one with Bill Burr when they were in the outfit swap.
That's the one I the 3 3/4 one I have.
Oh, then yeah, that's the I took that head and put it on my Mando figure
Yeah, I've done
for
that.
the display.
Yeah, and
Also, I was just moving. Speaking of Pedro, there's the Hot Toys Pedro head that's just sitting on my shelf because he's wearing his helmet right now. So,
yes, spoiler for my list. I've never owned anything 1/6 scale.
well, I mean, we just got to get someone to print you out, and
Yeah,
and you can have your own sculpt in 1/6 scale.
yeah, yeah. I don't know what I'll have to do, like what organs I'm gonna have to sell, but they showed that Balin skull,
Oh,
hot.
also, Frederick, this is coming your way. I need this painted.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that Hot Toys Balin looks great. I just wish that the Black Series had done right by him and Shin
yeah,
when it came to the execution on those. He comes out a little better on the sculpt than Shin's paint job did.
yeah. I don't have a shin.
Uh, the yeah, I did the with my limited skills the repaint on
It's
her.
so, that orange lightsaber. It's just perfect.
And this was the running change one because I think she had the wrong color too when she was
Yeah,
first issued. But yeah, it's amazing what a little wash in that hair does to that
yeah,
weird Party City wig that they
yeah.
gave that figure. Uh, so how much? So 3 3/4. Do you have characters that are insta buys, and do you have a go-to scale as well?
I I have, and this goes for absolutely everything in my life: movies, food. I have no allegiances to anything, any scale. I'll take. I love all of it. So I think I don't know. I think at this point now that I've sold most of my collection, I probably have more 3 3/4 because that's what I collected as a kid. So the numbers are there. I'd say so. Yeah.
So are there ones that you've seen announced recently that are like, I would really like to pick that up?
They haven't announced a Balin yet,
No, no, they haven't.
and that's my top. That's the one that I really really want. And like I said, I'm still wary to go back to my 3 3/4 vintage collection X because I don't know if they've really changed to the new hips or not. So I always have to wait.
You got to wait for Tim. You got to wait for Tim to give you the go ahead.
I really do. I really do.
So, what was your most recent 3 3/4 acquisition?
So like I've gone 7 months without buying a toy. So that's like just something I've kind of like forced upon myself. But I think the last 3 3/4 might have been a variation of this guy. It was the like the I don't know if you call him Maldalorian. It's like the
Oh,
Darth Maul Allegiant kind of guy.
right.
Yeah. Because I know I love this so much. Anytime they do a different color of it, I'm like, mine. Yeah.
I'm trying to think because they just did the Mandalorian Judge was I think the most recent
Yeah. And
release.
I'm hoping I just don't see it at the store because I'm trying to be good.
You shouldn't have said that.
I
Now,
know.
as the next store you go to, it's going to be a grocery store, and you're going to see
Yeah.
that thing sitting there in the produce aisle for
Yeah.
some reason. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah, we got
know.
shipping in. It's weird. It came in, said to put it out today. Uh, are do you have a preference of like, do you like helmeted characters? Because I've seen a lot of helmeted characters so far
You're
in
right.
what you've chosen.
I think I do, and it like it goes back to being a kid. Like I played with my toys. Like we had adventures. I was in my room with them all day, having a whole battle. And I think a huge play feature is, a helmet. Like you can like did they lose the helmet? Like who's under there? Like are they fighting and they get their helmet knocked off? Like I love it. I don't know, it adds this so many layers to it. So I think I really do actually like helmeted stuff.
Just because it increases the as you said, your possibilities and
Yeah.
potentials of,
Yeah, it's a layer of mystery. It's all kinds of stuff.
particularly when you said with stuff that you may not know where that character is from. You can make anything up for him.
Absolutely. You can graft any narrative you want onto someone with a helmet, really.
It can be anyone.
Yeah.
Uh, so that was your middle choice. So
Yep.
now is before we get into your top two, do you have one that is far and away going to be your number one? That it wasn't even a question of what your number one is.
Yeah.
Okay, so this number two was an easy number two.
Yeah, it was an easy number two, for
Okay,
sure.
so
Okay.
what is your number two?
Number two is this is cool because for people from different generations, I love hearing about what packaging gives them the nostalgia feels. And it's for me, it's the Black Series, the Clone Wars General Kenobi. Like this thing fills my soul up with joy.
So much that you haven't opened it.
I will never open it, and I open every. Yeah, yeah. He's glorious because at that time I used to get Star Wars Insider magazine as a kid. My mom would buy it for me, and at that time nothing was in there about like the Clone Wars. I had no idea what it was. I didn't know it was coming, and then one day at Walmart there was this General Kenobi, and he had the foil first edition sticker on it. And at that time, I was a good kid, and so I would look at my mom like, "Mom," and she'd be like, "Grab two, pick two," And I got Obi-Wan and Anakin, and it was just my
I'm gonna see if I can do this without everything on my shelf coming down because I'm not gonna get up to get this. So let me know. Is this what you're talking about?
Yep, that's it. That's the one. Yep, that's my
Look at the
now.
serendipity of me having this where I could get it, and everything on my shelf did not come off as I just grabbed this.
Which is weird because I didn't even think about it, but he also came with a helmet.
He did, which is up there with the little training helmet thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and they yes, they oh, this is when I actually do make a mistake, isn't it? Okay. No, 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 no. I can't believe I did this.
Would you
But
get
I
it?
but I did this.
Oh, he's got it. I remember it being hard.
Which
Yeah. Oh,
sadly does not come with that Black Series figure.
yeah, it doesn't. I don't know why.
So, out of curiosity, uh, how difficult to sculpt would that be?
That's the thing is I think, it's really important to be honest about like what your sculpting weaknesses are. And those like hard surface helmets, they're so hard to get right, especially stormtroopers, because everyone knows exactly what a stormtrooper or a clone trooper looks like in their head, and if it's
And
off a little bit,
Kamino and Customs would
yeah,
be out there circling.
yeah. I've never like been to a convention where I can like talk to other artists, but people like that who do helmets and stuff, I just want to have a
There
whole
we go.
conversation. Yeah, that's how he lived on my shelf
So
and in
so
my
he lived with that helmet on. So again, we're
yeah,
back to the helmet thing.
yeah, in my pocket. Took him to the ballpark, played with him in the dirt. Yeah.
So is this still in your collection? Is this one that you
So
retained?
I've said that my childhood collection is still at my childhood home, and that's a
Right.
different top five. And he's in that list. He's home safe. Yeah.
So where would he fit in your childhood top five?
He would probably be number five. Yeah.
But he is in the top five.
He is in the top five. I played with him that much. Yeah.
So would you if you could somehow get a second of that Black Series one, would you open that and would you enjoy having that out of the package as well?
Yeah, I've got him, Anakin. I've got a Clone Wars Ahsoka, and then Mace Windu in his clone armor. Those are the only ones I've still got in the box.
And what was didn't they release the was it Echo and the clone pilot in the
Yeah, I think it
retro
was like
packaging?
it might have been one of those ARC guys, like fives or something. Yeah.
Uh as a Target exclusive, so they were
Yep.
ridiculous to try and get.
Yeah.
And yeah, there we go with his massive rocket.
So you're telling me I got to make a jetpack too?
I'm not telling you anything, but I'm thinking you're thinking it right now.
I've been waiting for someone to commission me to make like those like silly like force blasters that you can hook onto his wrist or something like that.
Oh, you mean like Plo Koon's lightsaber?
Yeah, just like sometimes they came with like those weird weapon things. Yeah. Yep. That thing would be easy. Yeah.
I mean, now that they're doing this sort of Clone War line, I'm assuming that I mean we got Mace Windu in his armor with a clone.
Yeah.
We got to get a Plo Koon kitted out, right? That
I
comes
think
with
yeah.
a nice little sculpted hood in the back. Shout out to
My
Luke.
my favorite like white whale as a kid, and I've never got to ask people this. I like to know what figure did you know existed like on the back of a packaging, but you never found it as a kid. And for me, it was Mace Windu from the Clone Wars.
That the one that came with the Jango Fett helmet.
Yeah, there was that one, and I think like the first edition came with the same thing Obi-Wan had, which was just a clone helmet to put on him.
um, from the first edition
Yeah, I
release.
think.
Oh, this rocket's gonna fire somewhere. I had to put this down. Uh, I better not lose his head either.
I don't know what era like you grew up as a kid like collecting
Oh,
and
original Kenner era.
okay.
Yeah.
Did you have one that you knew like was on the back but you couldn't find it?
Oh, geez. Now, the only figure that for that sticks out in my mind is something that was frustrating that was on the back of a package was they did Tailspin figures. I don't know if you're familiar with the Disney
Yeah.
cartoon Tailspin. So they released the figures, and on the back of the packaging, one of the figures that they advertised was Wildcat, who was the mechanic.
Okay. Yeah.
So the initial release was Baloo and Kit and Molly and a couple of villains like Spigot or whatever. So that was like the initial uh, release, but they showed this Wildcat figure, and I always would check the stores for
Yeah.
Wildcat. Always. It's like there's no Wildcats, nothing. This is obviously way pre eBay. This is 91, I think this would have been. Uh Looked high and low for this thing. Eternally frustrating. And it wasn't until years later in the rise of the internet and being able to look at these things, I found out they never actually produced that figure that was intended as the next wave of figures didn't come out. So
Yeah.
this frustration I had looking for that was never going to happen because it never
Yeah.
happened. So that's the one that sticks out in my mind the most as being just eternally vigilant and on the lookout to the point
Yeah.
I was still looking after those other figures had gone from stores. Like there are no more Tailspin figures, but yet
Yeah.
somehow this has got to come out, right? I mean, they showed it on the package; it's got to exist.
For sure. I think the like I also hear a lot of the Adams Family Wednesday from Playmates.
Well, you did that Wednesday is one of your sculpts, right? Was that a commission?
Yeah, no, I was like, I just heard about it so much, almost like Wonder Bread He-Man, like it was this like Wednesday thing, and I was like in the Halloween mood as always, and I was like, I think I can make that, so I just gave it a shot.
And now people can get that. That's on your Cult 3D
Yeah,
offerings, isn't it?
yeah, I think it was the catalyst for it was like Blainer Things from NECA was like, it'd be really cool if someone made this, and so I was like, well, I mean, I should probably make it, and then
I'm someone.
yeah. And eventually, like I think a year later, I saw him at PowerCon and I came up like the sweatiest, nerdiest, nervous person. Like I probably looked like a fool. And like he was absolutely so kind to me. And I was like, hey, you remember that time you talked about the Playmates thing? I made it and you could get it for like I was I totally turned into a puddle and I was like, okay, bye.
Has he since printed it out? Have you seen
I have
it
no
out?
idea. I have no idea. I'm sure the so nerve wracking. Like he was probably like, ooh.
Well, I mean, at some point, I mean, you haven't done like a lot of droids, right?
No,
Is there something that is keeping you from that, or is that just a commission waiting to happen?
I think there's people like in the community that do like the clone armor, and there's people that make like droid stuff. And I know, you know, me, I love like fabric, I love clothing, I love like those like stylized kind of things. So I like creatures a lot too. So I think people come to me for like creatures and stuff and less hard surface model things.
But the potential's there.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people I can do anything. I'll give anything a shot.
Well, I'm asking someone out there because I think we need it. Uh, we need a proper original Rex
Oh, that'd be so cool.
because we've gotten DJ Rex in the Black
Yeah,
Series, but DJ Rex is not quite original Rex. Look at the
He's played
platforms down here being smooth, and the eyes are different. He's wearing like glasses and headphones, and
he's played by Pee Wee Herman, right?
Paul Rubens. Uh huh.
Yeah, that's cool.
So proper Rex,
I just did the Marfa from the Pepsi
which
ad.
is great.
Yeah,
And
I've never
was
heard.
that just a for fun, or was that a commission?
It was a commission. It was another one of those ones where I'm like, I've never heard of this character. This one's your favorite character? Like, yeah, I'll do it.
I mean, now you got to do that weird creature at the end of the C3PO cereal commercial.
Someone had like commented or like sent me that. I was like, I have never heard of this thing.
Nope, nope. Or, and I'm looking at Luke. I trust you to give justice for Jack Porkins.
Oh yeah,
Get a proper Jack out there.
yeah. I think now I'm also at that point where I know that I can make kits for existing figures, you know? So if someone wanted to just pop the X-Wing Luke legs onto like a more rotund torso, like,
Right.
you know, that I think that's something that's very doable
He's
now.
he's a fuller figure pilot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not a terribly tall guy, so that Luke would fit.
Isn't that X-Wing Luke like one that people kind of want a redo of?
Oh, because he's like really short.
I think so. I
I
think
think
he's
I
just
think the thing that really showed it was when they put why am I forgetting the character's name from Rogue One?
oh, Galen Merrick. No,
No,
is
no,
that
the yes, but Merrick. Merrick was
Merrick?
the yes. When they put his head on that Luke body, and he's just so short, so tiny, it just didn't work. It's like, okay, well, you can't use that for every X-wing pilot. I'm sorry.
Quick tangent. Speaking of Rogue One, I told you my car got broken into today. The one thing they stole, I had a Krennic action figure in there.
And they took your like, was it the new 3 3/4?
No, it was the Black Series one. It's just he was just in my
And they
car.
just and they just
That,
took it.
that's it. It's the only thing they took was Krennic.
Maybe they were just maybe it was Ben Mendelsohn
I
who
know.
broke into your car.
Yeah.
It was, oh, I'm
He heard
taking that. It's mine now.
someone was like, he's gonna be in Andor season 3. I've got to get
I
that
just
figure.
heard. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
gonna be on my. I gotta have that.
yeah.
And he's so hard to get now.
So weird. It's just for some reason it made me feel more uncomfortable than if they had like took something valuable.
Like, why not my radio? Why my Krennic?
I was like, there's a GPS right there. There's an Xbox in the trunk.
Is it is
Yeah.
is it more hurtful to think a fellow Star Wars fan broke into your car?
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, screw that Imperial guy. Like,
Oh, so and now they got that sitting on their shelf right now. Your Krennic,
yeah.
and they're looking at it going, "I wish there was a better head sculpt on here."
I should have put a T on the back of it.
You know what? There's a reason you did it as a kid.
I know. Yeah. It worked out so many times where cousins would take stuff from me and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, well this one's mine because it's got a T on the foot."
You can see you going through your collection tonight, just putting all those T's on.
Yeah.
So you said that your number one choice was far and away your number one choice.
Yes.
Never any question.
No question at all. Everything in this room could be burned or sold, and this is the one that I would keep. You ready?
Ready.
Are you there?
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Anticipation was
you went a little
like,
signally there for a second, but I got
okay.
the gist that this is the thing you'd say. This is the thing you're running out of the house with.
Yes. Balin Skull.
Your Balin's. So is this an original, non refitted Balin skull?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. I was like, I don't care. I have never wanted a thing more than this. And like when he finally came out, I honestly, I was like, I think I'm done. I don't think I'll ever need another Star Wars. Yeah.
See that
I'm,
someone heard you or overheard you say that, and that's why they broke into your car and took that credit. It's like, well, he said he doesn't need anything else. We're gonna start taking these things off of him.
yeah, Kim, I'm good. Yeah. I think um it's really like weird and hard to describe like why I love this dude. It's just I think I was at a point where Kenobi had come out, Book of Boba Fett had come out, and for some reason I was just kind of like, I don't know, like I said, I like everything, but those two things gave me a hard time. I wasn't really enjoying it, and Ahsoka came around, and like I said, my favorite thing, you asked, I was like, yeah, yeah, the ancient Sith, Jedi, anything to do with that, and then here comes this guy in ancient Sith armor with an orange lightsaber, and I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life, and I need to know everything about that guy.
He's got a Halloween lightsaber.
He's got a Halloween lightsaber. It's like long for some reason. Yeah,
Oh,
he was just,
we went a little.
you know.
What was the last thing you said? We went a little bit signal lossy.
Oh, sorry. I said like then the show came out and it justified my love because he was just, so great in it.
And then a figure came out before the show was done.
It did, and that was the it adds to the love of it because at the time like I wasn't buying toys, and my partner had, I don't know how, managed to pre-order him for Christmas for me, and and that was my Christmas present.
So are you getting the one with the cloak that's coming out?
I think one's good. Yeah, I don't like. This is weird. As a kid, I used to cut the skirt off Darth Maul or like the cape off Darth Vader. Like I just didn't like.
The cloth goods.
Yeah, like it was like a tactile problem. I just didn't like it. Yeah, I think
So working with Luke, who doesn't like cloth goods on his figures, is a good thing.
it's good, and we joke because I tell him I'm his mortal enemy in real life because my day job is like I sew costumes for a
Yeah, you're
ballet.
working with cloth goods all the
Yeah,
time.
I work with cloth goods all day.
Yeah, he not a fan. He's not a fan of cloth goods on his figures. But now that you've seen the Hot Toys figure, that would have, if the opportunity arose, a place in your collection.
And I get it, you know, it's
Oh, we went.
in what future I would ever be able to. It's part.
Oh, your signal went out a little bit, but uh, I think you were talking about you're not sure that that potential would exist, but any potential exists. So you that figure may still be in your future. Who knows?
I hope, yeah, I hope one day I can Mercari sell enough to get that.
Or there's enough commissions or
Yeah,
jobs that that's not a concern. So you're being able to just add to your collection without subtracting from it is the
yeah,
dream.
yeah, for sure.
So let's all hope for that future as the
Yeah,
one that they come, because the universe owes you for that Krennic it just took away.
it does, yeah.
Yeah,
I think everyone deserves like one hot toy.
everyone deserves one hot toy. Don't look behind me. Everyone deserves at least one hot toy.
Yeah.
Uh, and they are a very slippery slope. They
Yeah, you're the 1%.
yeah, and they they once you go down that path, you are going to start going, well, Balin looks lonely.
Yeah.
And they're about to release that Clone Wars Obi-Wan too. So you could have in that style with that armor an Obi-Wan from Hot
I,
Toys in just a matter of months. that comes
Yeah.
out. See, slippery slope, slippery slope. You can get your entire list in hot toy form.
I think I've become like Buddhist monk like with my discipline of like action figure buying to where I know I can hold off.
Well, as soon as the world more fully discovers the talent that you have and starts throwing money at you to get
Yeah,
access to it,
there will be signs.
that Zen Buddhist reserve may fall away when you go, oh, I can just go ahead and order that, huh? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I'm not saying I got a job at Hasbro, but there will be signs.
Yeah. And it's that Balin who's
Yeah.
waving to me from behind me.
They're like, why do you have three Balin hot toys?
He gets lonely.
Yeah.
So, uh, tangentially to this list, because you talked about your childhood collection. This is
Yeah.
the one that your modern collection of stuff that you have with you. What would be your ranking from 5 to 1 of the stuff that you've done?
That I've done.
Yeah, your figure sculpts. The what would be your 5 Star Wars picks?
Okay, so it's Star Wars.
Well, we'll go with Star Wars, then we'll go with more general
Okay. Um, I'm really proud of the Basil.
that, that you just did from Acolyte.
Yes, I'm really proud of that. I think number one would be Dexter.
I mean,
Yeah, that's my number one. I don't know how I did it. I still don't know how I did it.
but you did it. This
I
is the
did it.
thing.
Yeah.
You're
If
looking
anyone,
at a thing you did that's not
yeah.
on your computer in somebody else's hands.
If I ever had to do it again, I'd probably just crawl into a hole and cry.
Oh, that makes Dex sad.
Like if I lost the file and had to redo it, yeah. It
He's
was
very sad now.
it
Oh,
was a true marathon. Yeah, to get it there. Let me think. I'm so that's number one. We'll say Basil is number three. Um, wow, I can't even remember all the things that I've done. You know what? No, I've got one. We'll go number two is I did a chair of the Millennium Falcon.
the cockpit seat.
Yeah, I did the seat for Lance Spear Luke. It was super simple, but for some reason I'm like, it's the chair of the Falcon, you know? Like I can't mess this up. It has to be perfect. For some reason I'm just really proud of it.
I mean, it's got a lot of fiddly bits and a lot of character to it. So,
Yeah.
was it difficult finding the research materials for it, the
No, there's
reference?
that's the best part about Lance Peter Luke is like usually he always hits me with great images that he's scrounged up from, the RPF or anywhere really.
Oh, got it. So it's always helpful when a client goes, "Hey, here's how I want it to look."
Exactly. Yeah. Like if you have a comic book character and you send me images from different artists, I yeah,
But if I said you think, "Oh, I would really like a John Byrne Doctor Doom,"
yeah.
here's
I
the images of that.
yeah, but if you're like, I'm thinking of Doctor Doom, and then you send me like three different artists, like I don't know, which one do you want?
14 different faceplate styles.
Yeah. And I think I just ran into like that kind of art problem with reference with the Verger figure from Star Wars Legacy
Right.
because there's a picture of her from a board game, there's a picture of her from a comic book, and like that's it, And so I had to find a medium, like middle ground between the two
So
images, and it was
so
really
ultimately
hard.
it becomes your version of that character.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and I think I don't know. I think sometimes it's really cool that people will like trust me to make it look cool.
mean, I think the key is that you've earned that trust. Oh, did we lose your signal again?
Breathe again.
There we go. There we go.
Oh
I can hear
no.
you. I can hear you again.
Oh, I'm so sorry this is happening.
No, no. Listen, this is technology. We should instead look at it as the miracle that it is that this is happening at all. So,
Yeah,
uh, no, I was saying that I mean, I'm looking at again some of the
yeah,
stuff
it's true.
on your Instagram, and I do hope that everyone watching goes and looks through your Instagram and sees. I mean, there's. Oh yeah, I'm just looking at. I like that on my shelf. That'd be swell. That'd be great. Uh, I like the ghosts that you did, the trio of ghosts. That are they from the Donald Duck Trick or Treat cartoon?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it was my favorite one as a kid.
Now I just want you to do a witch hazel to go with them.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I was thinking about doing her, but I kept running into that problem of I could find her from one angle, but I couldn't find, like a good way to turn her into
Turn
a
her
3D
around.
character. Yeah,
But those ghosts look so lonely.
they do.
uh, yeah, I remember one year I took that animation and projected the faces on the pumpkins out
Oh,
front.
that's
So did
that's
that
so cool. I'm
that version of them.
I'm a huge Halloween freak. Like my entire house is still Halloween right now in June. Yeah,
Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw they did the Disney parks did the Huey, Dewey, and Louie ornament from Trick or Treat
really.
that plays the song.
Oh gosh, it's so good.
So it's
I
them in
they
their Halloween costumes.
the VHS tapes from the like 90s when I grew up had an opening. It was the Haunted Mansion, and it was the Grim Grinning Ghosts song, and it was like a live action like music video thing.
Oh, I remember that. I mean, I remember that entire special well.
Yeah, it
I'm
was
look
my
I'm
favorite
looking up the
thing as a kid.
ornament. Uh, Disney Trick or Treat ornament. I think it's going to be worth this journey when I finally pull it up. Trust you me.
Yeah, I mean my partner is a Christmas freak, so you might be finding the perfect balance here. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I'm gonna have to like get that for my mom.
Yeah. Oh no, it is a great little ornament. And yeah, it plays the full Trick or Treat song.
I think I get a lot of joy out of making things for people from communities that they haven't gotten that thing, you know? Like I do because like I'll make like the ghosts or something and do it for me, and then like I'll learn that there are people that are like, oh, can you do this character from the other Disney short, and it's really cool to like
Oh yeah, I
hear
mean,
that.
I saw the Lonesome Ghost that you did, which is great.
Yeah, yeah, it's just so cool to really connect with people that like that thing is their thing, and you just wouldn't have known about it.
Now I'm just envisioning Donald, Goofy, and Mickey in molasses at the end of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Slowly but surely, you'll do all these things. I mean, and seeing the Mr. Hyde, the Looney Tunes one that you did,
yeah. That ever
uh,
scare me as a kid.
I mean, all of those. Uh, I mean, that's a pure Chuck Jones design.
There's the one where Daffy, he's like home alone for the day, and he's reading all the like horror magazines, and he falls asleep, and he like dreams that he's in a like Frank Sinatra bar with all the monsters. I love that one.
Yeah, I think was that a Clampett? It was a Bob
Uh,
Clampett one, right?
you would know better than me. I just watched it as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I to have, I don't know if you saw the, very briefly, Warner Brothers was producing their own action figures of the Looney Tunes in the mid 2000s.
Is that
But
back when they had a Warner Brothers store?
it was back when they had the Warner Brothers store. But they had
Yeah,
like a Warner Brothers Direct line of figures, but they were based on specific cartoons. So they would do the artist style for them. So they had a What's Opera doc.
that's cool.
They released Elmer and Bugs, but it was Bugs as Brunhilde and Elmer in full armor, and it had the little sedan that Bugs
Yeah,
lays on as part of the action figure releases. They did the Three Musketeers. No, it wasn't Three Musketeers. It was Daffy as the Scarlet Pimpernel, the Scarlet Pumpernickel, and Sylvester as the villain from that. But it was a great line because it was that thing we were talking about where the fidelity to
yeah,
the designs was there. That line failed so bad and went away so fast, and it was so sad when it did, because it was on the verge of like, oh, they're doing really nice stuff to do these things. In fact, I think it was maybe the 2008 crash took everything away. That economic crash when a lot of those
yeah.
companies started going under. That I think
Do
was
you
like the ultimate death knell for those. I'm looking up at the What's Opera doc right now. They're great
do you have
figures.
of toys that you think nailed the look of the thing the most? Because for me, it's the Justice League Bruce Timm line.
Those, yes, the smaller ones when they
Yeah,
went and do the, yes, I think those were consistently great.
yeah,
Obviously, you're not buying them for the articulation,
yeah.
but as representations, I mean, I'm looking at the Orion figure uh over there that they did. Um yeah, those are great. Anytime that stylization like that, but I thought like the Clone Wars line
Yeah,
did a really good job. I mean, this is right out of the cartoon.
yeah,
This is a really great representation of Rex. The Cad Banes that they did
yeah,
are amazing. The Hondo that they did is amazing. That Plo Koon that I held up earlier is amazing. I thought those did a really good job. I think they got better, like with the that Obi-Wan, like that. That's not a great Obi-Wan head sculpt
yeah,
on that original Obi-Wan, but they got a heck of a lot better as they went on.
yeah.
Um, and for 3 3/4 scale and articulation, I think that line did really well. So I wish they would, as novelties, just bring out a couple of those stylized in the Black Series scale.
Now, if we do that, we have to concede and give people a buff Luke.
Power of the Force 2,
Yeah,
not even a buff C3PO.
yeah.
That line was bonkers across the board.
See,
Everyone got that treatment. The buff Tarkin
that buff Lando was my Lando as a kid. I just thought that was Lando.
and Billy D would agree.
Yeah,
They nailed it accurately. No, that, yes. I'm fine. I'm fine. If you want to do a novelty retro release like that, that is just like, yeah, here you go. Here's a Black Series of the Power of the Force 2, Luke. I think that's fun. I think that's fun to have some kind of variations like that in a line. Make
didn't
it
they
a
do like
convention
a
exclusive or something.
didn't they do like a Jar Jar Binks and Carbonite for a convention?
They did. I think it
Yeah,
was 2013, 2012. It was like right before the sale to Disney
yeah.
happened. I think that was one of the final figures in the original TVC, the original vintage collection run.
That's wild.
I mean, but I mean, there was something we said that they had a lot more fun, a lot more
Yeah,
flexibility to have weird fun with the line when, all the uh clearances ultimately are just George going, yeah, sure.
yeah,
Then it ultimately got up to just that point. There's a lot of corporate concerns that are not going to let you mess around with IP in the
yeah.
same way when it's one person. I don't think we'll see a robot chicken Star Wars
Yeah, or was it like
again.
Family Guy,
Yeah,
Star Wars?
all of those things that ultimately just needed to have George go, "Oh, that's funny, sure,"
Yeah,
but we're not going to see that in a corporate setting, uh, for good or ill. It's just not a thing that's gonna happen. I forgot where we left off on your personal your own sculpts. Was it number three we got to?
I think so. And I'm having a real hard time remembering. I don't know what is
Do you know what your
posted.
number one would be?
Dexter.
Dex is your absolute number one. Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm really proud of Basil, the Falcon chair. I did Cyril from Rogue, not Rogue One, Andor.
Right.
I did a kit for someone, and it was the vest and the officer hat and I nailed the stitching and the clothing texture on that one. I really liked it,
Scrolling down to find.
but I don't think it's on my Instagram because it was just like a private thing.
Oh, you did do a droid. I didn't realize that you did the C3PO.
Oh my gosh, yes. My
the
computer almost
the
caught on fire.
episode one C3PO.
It almost destroyed my computer. Yeah.
What rendering that out?
Just making it like every wire in there was like hand moved into place. It was a nightmare.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Has that been printed out yet by anyone?
A lot of people have downloaded it from the Colts 3D page, but no one has sent me that they've printed it yet.
Is it on your Cults 3D page?
Yeah.
Cults 3D is so hard to navigate sometimes.
It's weird.
Uh oh, I don't see it on the Cults 3D page. Do things fall off of it?
That's weird, did it? I was gonna say, did I get Lucas filmed?
Yeah, I don't see it as part of the stuff on there.
Oh, that's weird.
Yep. No.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe by the time everyone's watching this, it'll be back on the Cults 3D page. You might need to go
Yeah.
through your Cults 3D page and see what's on there.
Yeah, that's wild. That's never happened.
Uh, yeah, that looks like. I'm shocked that Luke's never printed out and painted it for his. Does he have a? Because that like fits right in with his collection.
Yeah.
He's got a big episode one representation on his shelf. Uh,
Yeah,
I mean, I could
that thing.
scroll through and look at all your stuff all night, and that's something for me to do, not for us to do on camera.
Yeah, I never even imagined it would even be that much.
Also, I like your Mission Fleet Zartan.
Thank you.
As soon as I just scrolled past, I went, "Oh, that's Mission Fleet style."
Yeah, the sculptor who sculpted those, the Mission Fleet stuff, they put up their like renders and stuff, and they were really helpful for kind of
Figure out
getting the
what their house style is.
yeah.
Oh, the Ghostbusters are great. So, what else do you think? Can you envision a Ben 10 Mission Fleet?
I think for me, the path for Ben 10 and for everyone, I know everyone always is like, oh, SH Figure Arts, like highly articulated. But I think, and I've got like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like crazy Charlie board setup
Who
of,
doesn't?
I know it like I have my Ben 10 line planned out, and it's very much NECA Ninja Turtles. It's like a copy of that, I think.
Well, again, NECA.
Yeah.
Because what was the last? I can't even imagine the last Ben 10 toy. Was it about 5 years ago now? 4 years
Yeah, it
ago? Were
the
there any
newer,
toys for the last season for the last show?
yeah, you can get them at Five Below right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
so sad.
yeah, and that's fine. That cartoon got a whole new generation, into it, but I think some of the designs just weren't my thing.
It's definitely a weird position to be in on
Yeah,
something like that. And like anything, you got to sort of hit with the right thing at the right time. Ninja Turtles has learned that over the years.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how many other shows have had or IPs have had that many visual redesigns in so short a time.
yeah. I think the 2000s kids are coming in, they're really coming into the space.
Oh yeah, well, we're all fading fast.
Yeah.
Everyone above you, so the time
my
is
my
yours.
my dad he's a real like he's got weird interests from like even before his time. So I'm like I shock people sometimes when I know what Battle of the Planets is, you know.
Well, I mean, that's when you have a parent that you can share that kind of thing with and can introduce you to the things that they liked. You
Yeah.
can learn to appreciate it. So then, what's the Battle of the Planets? Where's your Battle of the Planets sculpts? Have you thought about any of those?
It's funny because my dad he just messaged me yesterday and was like, "When are you gonna sculpt me the fiery phoenix?"
And your answer was get in line.
Yeah, I was like, "You can commission me here, Dad."
What you should tell him is, hey, you know what? That Hot Toys Balin skull
Yeah.
would look really nice in my shelf, the same way that this would look really nice on yours.
Yeah. I think if I had a good printer, then yeah, I'd probably surprise him with a lot of stuff from that show.
Well, I mean, maybe this might be worth reaching out to some of the some of the companies out there and see if they want to send a printer your way to sponsor you.
Yeah.
You hear that? Who are the ones? Elegoo,
Yeah.
Bamboo. Where are you? This, yeah, you need to be producing these. Is it weird to be making these models and not have these things for yourself? Oh, you froze a
Yeah.
little bit.
I mean,
Oh, there you
it's
go.
a double-edged sword because I do want it's kind of half and half because I do want them, but at the same time, I don't have space, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So it's like if I printed everything that I made, I'd need a new room.
What would be if you had a printer right now? What's the first thing that you would print?
The first thing, oh, it would be one of my Ben 10 figures, I think, my Heat Blast or the Grandpa Max. Yeah.
And uh what would be the first thing that you would want to sculpt knowing that you could print it right away?
It would probably be a Glob Herman. If I knew that like my resin printer was working good, I bought some, clear resin, I dyed it pink, I'd make that Glob Herman figure.
But, this is going to be the year that all this stuff happens.
Yeah, I hope.
Uh, and I'm the fact is all that you made these, you've crafted these models into existence. And the great thing about 3D models is they exist and you just need to plug them into whatever printer comes in or whoever has a printer or whatever.
Yeah,
There's a flexibility to it that, certainly isn't there with traditional craftsmanship of one and done or having to deal with, a mold process and a manufacturing process. So you do amazing work.
well, thank you.
Uh, so kudos to everyone who is commissioning you to make sure that these things get out there. Shout out to Luke
Yeah,
and his prompting and need to fill his own shelves
yeah.
with these things because he wants to see them happen.
I
Uh,
I couldn't be more grateful. It's the people who come to me and are like, I trust you to make a thing for me with my hard-earned money. It's like they put food on my table, they literally pay for the roof over my head, and it's crazy. It means the world to me.
well, I mean, everyone watching this, go follow the Glowing Ghost on Instagram. Go check out all the stuff. Is that the best method if people want to commission you to reach you through Instagram
Yeah,
or through your website or
that's the one. I like it. I like being able to use the message. I hate using my email. It doesn't connect with me. But yeah, the Instagram's the best way.
Um, yeah, everyone, go do that. Go do that thing. Because once you see the work that he's done, and if you're in a position to do so, and you want a certain thing on your shelf, reach out to him. It is great work that you're doing. So kudos and applause for all this, and
I'm
I
gonna
hope
try.
you've enjoyed this walk through your collection
Yeah,
on the show because it's been a joy having you on.
thank you so much for having me on, giving me a chance to talk toys. I never get to talk toys to anyone besides my partner. I'm sure it's a
Or when you're taking notes from Luke,
yeah,
and he's like, I'm sorry that that rag on Dex's back should be a little bit longer than it is."
yeah. Or if I'm nervously sweating in front of Blainer things at a comic convention.
But now he had darn well had better printed out that Wednesday.
Yeah,
So the challenge is there. Now he's got to prove that he's printed it out and
yeah.
that exists. So I want to thank you again for being on. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone has enjoyed watching this edition of Force 5. You can go watch. There's plenty of other ones too with some great guests if you haven't seen them. There's other wonderful shows and live shows that are on the channel all the time. There's interviews I've done. There's more shows premiering, bringing back some old shows that I've done as well with some great guests. Might be doing some live trivia with some wonderful folks periodically on the channel. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you're not a patron, go to patreon.com/Ken Plume. Yes, it's all that stuff down there that they can smash and hit and do the things with buttons. I don't know. It's all that stuff. Yeah, patreon.com/Ken Plume. There's also a little tip thing down there. There's an Amazon wish list if you just want to buy weird stuff and equipment. That's all down there. And thank you all for all of this. Again, go fly, go fly, go follow the Glowing Ghost on Instagram. Go check out all of his stuff. Do all the things with me. And now we're going to do the awkward wave while we say goodbye to everyone. And thank you for watching. Bye.